Hey folks, John here, Old Hickory Forge. Welcome back. If it's your first time here, welcome. So, what's going on today? This is going to be kind of just a quick, lighter video celebrating the channel passing 20,000 subscribers. That's pretty cool. So we're just going to take a look around the shop, talk to you about some of my favorite tools, answer a few questions, and it should be kind of cool. So if you want to check it out, stick around. Starting out, I figured I'd show you everything outside real quick. Right there, I got my Swage block. We'll talk more about that here in a minute. Over there, we got a smaller Holland Anvil Swage block. The guillotine tool, I don't use that often anymore because I have the press now, but it's still useful for when a lighter touch is required. Striking hammers, 10, 12, 16 pounds, twisting wrench. Post vise and a post vise stand. We'll talk more about that in a little bit also. Striking anvil, slack tub, hammer rack. Built the forge stand. It's just a couple of pieces of plate, some angle iron, and then I have a top tool rack around that side. This is one of my ribbon burner forges. Got the blower hooked up. I got a little bit of work I got to do today, so I got that ready to go. Tong rack, made of an old wheelbarrow wheel. It's kind of cool. And the anvil. We're going to talk more about that here in a little bit too, so I got it nice and clean. Quick look at the post vise before we head inside. This is a pretty cool piece for a lot of reasons. Now, had this been any other vise in the world, I would have thrown it away. This came to me in a trade, so I choose to believe I didn't pay anything for it. But it was missing the spring and the mount. As you can see, I fabric cobbled all this up. The spring is a piece of leaf spring. The screw box was pretty loose. I tried to wedge it in there and make it look pretty and original there. Eventually, I just got pissed off and welded it to it. I'm sure that's not properly done, but it's together and it works. That's all that matters to me. The threads were really, really worn to the point where when you closed it, the spring would kick the jaw back. So I had to have some work done to the screw box, but it works good now. But the reason I decided to keep this around is because I have never seen a vise this big. These jaws are 7 inches. They're about 1.25 inches in depth. That leg post right there is 2 inches thick. This vise weighs about 160 pounds. I'd never seen one this big, so I really wanted to get it up and running. It was kind of a labor of love, but it's mounted on a nice mounting plate from Uncle Buck's Forge. I don't think he makes those anymore, which kind of sucks because they're really, really cool. The stand is just a basic tripod stand. I got some feet welded on the bottom. The way it's secured to the ground is pretty cool. Basically, those were 4-foot sections of rebar. I bent about 18 inches over to make a giant candy cane shaped staple, and then just stapled it to the ground. And it's rock solid. So that's a good way to mount a vise if you're on soft ground like I am. But let's keep moving. Going into the shop in those buckets from left to right, we got vinegar. I use that for soaking hammerheads in to help wire wheeling the scale off easier. Boiled linseed oil, I use that when my hammers and top tools and whatnot are done. I like to soak them in it for at least a couple hours. Ideally overnight, but a couple hours is plenty to really, really soak it into the wood. Trash can, obviously. All this stuff right here is actually really coarse-grained wrought iron. It's really, really pretty when it's cleaned up and put in an acid bath. Those are all, I think, tie rods that came off of a train car from 1901. A couple of post vices tucked away in the corner over there. Commission board, as well as where I keep track of the hammer serial numbers. Over here, this is all mild steel for, general purpose blacksmithing, ornamental iron work. Shovel and a broom for cleaning up. Tank ammo tube for quenching swords. Small container of vegetable oil. I used to use that for quenching. Now I've got the professional grade quenching oils. One in the black can is Parks 50. The one in the white can is AAA. I went ahead and painted the cans different colors because if I just wrote on them with a Sharpie, they'd get really dirty and I'd be dusting them off every time I needed to know which was which. So I just went ahead and painted them 2 different colors. So it's worth mentioning that when I moved into this shop, there was nothing here. It was just an empty gravel-floored basement. So built the work tables. For a long time, this was the only one. Me and my dad built both of these, and we just built that one pretty recently. But a little shelf for keeping all the dies I've made for the press. Bench vise. That's a cold cut chop saw that I use for, cutting metal when I need square cuts or I'm doing a lot of fabrication. I don't use it very often, so it's just kind of over there and not causing trouble. Trusty 2x72 grinder, built off of the same design from the video where me and Eric built one. That one's just got a bigger motor and a bigger drive wheel for more power. My high-tech grinder dust collector 3000, patent pending, by the way. Bucket of water for keeping blades cool. Another post vise for holding things, general purpose vise stuff. Over here on this table, we got the DeWalt Portaband with the swag table. That's really, really handy for cutting small stuff or if you're cutting curves like flower petals out of sheet metal. That's really nice to have. You don't always want to pull the big bandsaw up and put the cut table on, this, that, and the other. Keep the sandpaper down there, all different grits. You know, miter saw, I use that for cutting down handle material. I do woodwork sometimes. Buffer with a strop wheel, I use that for putting the final edges on blades. You've seen it 1,000 times. Ribbon burners, one of which has been in that mold for like a month. I just haven't got around to pulling it out and curing it. It's not going to hurt it to sit there for any amount of time, so it's, you know, no big deal. Normally this table is a lot more cluttered because right here is where I do all my leather work. So there's a self-healing mat, leatherwork toolkit, dies, stitching stuff, glue, everything down there. Little 66-pound anvil. I did a review on that guy pretty recently. It's become kind of a dedicated leatherwork anvil. There's my welder, Lincoln Pro MiG 140. It's a good machine. And over there is where I keep a fan just to keep some air movement in here. It helps out a lot during the summer. That's where I keep hammer handle stock and tomahawk handles and all manner of stuff. Over here, we got a 50-foot square roll of our 2600 degree insulation. That's what I use for the main lining in my forges. Torch kit. Those buckets have castable refractory in them. Scrap wood over there. Toolboxes, that's actually a vacuum chamber. I'm messing around trying to learn wood stabilizing, so I just recently got that. I've been playing around with it every now and then. Over here is actually my other forge. If you do a lot of blacksmithing, it pays to have 2 forges. So when one goes down for relining, you don't have to stop production. Table saw, use that for ripping down handle scales. Die grinder, I use that for cleaning up the insides of hammer eyes. Quick note on refractory and forge lining materials. Like I said, that's a 50 square foot roll of ends wool. Those 2 buckets beside the torch kit are full of castable refractory. A lot of people approach me wanting to build forges and they ask, you know, John, where can I get stuff to line my forge without spending an arm and a leg? Well, the horrible truth is you can't. But the more you can buy at once, example, buying a 5-pound bag of castable, which isn't enough to line a forge, by the way, versus buying a 55-pound bag. I've done the math and it comes out to about half the price per pound. Same principle with the wool. And even under heavy use, that amount of those materials is going to last for years. You know, my last 50 square foot roll of ends wool lasted me about 3 years, and I reline my forges about every 6 months, sometimes more, depending on how hard I'm running them. And I've built quite a few. And my last roll wasn't even completely gone. I had about a third of it left, and I just gave it to my dad in case he wanted to build another forge or something like that. But there's that. The more of it you can buy at once, the better value you're going to get in the long run, and you're eventually going to need all of it, so it pays to just get as much as you can up front. This here's a Porter cable floor model drill press. You know, I don't know what speed. I bought it used, paid 150 bucks for it, so that was a pretty good deal. It's a good machine, though. So over here on this shelf, you know, me and my dad built this shelf. There's all kinds of crap that I use a lot, you know, rags, socket sets, Dremel toolkit, ratchet straps. Up there's, you know, glues, fasteners, coolant, WD-40, linseed oil, cordless tools, drill bits, you know, a few grinder attachments. Up on top's where I keep the handle material, you know, Osage, walnut. There's some pretty sweet hybrid handle material that just came in today. Dead blow hammer, use that for hanging hammer heads, stuff for making canister. Letter punches, my touch marks up there. And then odd stuff's over there, like, you know, temp gun, Rockwell files, hidden tang handle brooch, wood moisture meter, fire extinguisher, obviously. Over here on the back wall, we got the grinding belt rack. You know, it goes 36, 120, basically just coarse to fine, left to right. You know, we got our aesthetically pleasing wall of wrenches. Grinders. If you ask me, no metal shop is complete without at least 3 angle grinders. It's nice to not have to stop and change attachments when you're in the middle of a project or something like that. So having a few just will provide you an enormous sense of well-being and help you be more productive. Up there is where I keep, you know, duct tape, cutting wheels, grinding wheels. In those jars, I've got handle pins, Allen wrenches, marking stuff, needle files, measuring tapes, this, that, and the other. If you make a lot of blades and you use a lot of pins, it's a smart idea to buy your pin stock in like 3 or 4 foot sections or something like that and cut it up into these little 1.5 inch bits and go ahead and chamfer the ends and throw it in a jar, so when you get ready to make a handle, you don't have to stop and make pins. You would just grab whichever you need. So there's that. Over there, we got a tube of ferric chloride for etching blades, as well as sheath and blade preform patterns for things I make a lot of, so those are really nice to have. You know, over there in that corner is where I keep all the knife steel. And then turning back around, we got our Riverside Machine 24-ton forging press. This thing pretty quickly became the star of the show when I got it. We'll talk more about it here in a minute. So right here, leaning up against this brick column, is where I keep all my hammer steel as well as tool steel, things like that. Normally I have a big pile of 2-inch round sitting right there, but I'm out of 2-inch round, which is what I use for most of my, well, all of my hammers actually. So I'm picking up some more tomorrow, so there's that. But back there, we got, you know, levels, saws, hammer, general purpose shop stuff, some more blade steel. You know, I'd like to think you all know this, but it's a smart idea to store your good steel and your mild steel separately, because blade steel is a lot more expensive than mild steel and you don't want them getting mixed up. So this here's a pretty new addition actually. This is a Jet 7-inch by 12-inch capacity metal cutting bandsaw with the integrated coolant pump and the hydraulic downfeed. My old 4x6 Harbor Freight bandsaw finally kicked the bucket. I got maybe 3 or 4 years of really abusive use out of that thing. You know, that was a great saw. Under its intended level of use, I'm certain one of those would last a long time. You know, that saw owed me nothing. Harbor Freight tools get a lot of bad rap, and some of the tools deserve it, but that was a good saw, so by no means am I saying it was a piece of crap. But the Jet was definitely a huge upgrade. It was a bit of an investment, but I think over time it'll be worth it. So there's just a quick look around the shop. For those of you who don't know, this is an unfinished basement up under my apartment where I live. I do have the landlord's permission, if you're wondering, and I do pay extra rent to use this space. I've had to put in some more lighting and have a little bit of electrical work done when I had the press brought in, but that wasn't that much of a problem. So that's there's that. Now, I'm not a very sentimental guy when it comes to tools. When a tool stops working, if I have to do something more complicated than replace a switch or a power cord, I throw it out and buy a new one. But because, you know, I'm incredibly thankful for you guys, you know, all my fans are super awesome. So I picked out 5 tools which have a lot of value to me, whether it be sentimental, monetary, or what have you. And I want to talk a little more about those to you guys to make me seem like, you know, more of a person and less of a talking head. The first tool I've picked to talk more about is my Swage block. You know, if you've been around the channel, you've seen me use this thing 1,000 times. I don't know who made it. I don't know how much it weighs. I'm guessing around 200 and 250 pounds, something like that. I've never weighed it. That's just for me picking it up and saying that's about what it feels like. But it's 17 inches square, 4.5 inches thick. One of the reasons this is so valuable to me is because these are hard to find. You don't see Swage blocks very often, and they don't have a relatively stable market value like anvils do. Like, you know, there's no common price per pound for Swage blocks. So it's when you find one, it's kind of a toss-up what you're going to pay for it. So I was really, really lucky to get my hands on this one. This is the original stand. I've got it just on a 2-foot square piece of plywood to keep the legs from sinking into the ground. Whenever I've got the time and maybe a little more space, I might make some metal feet for it or something like that. But another reason this is so valuable and irreplaceable to me is this came from a good friend of mine named Chandler Dickinson. If you've been around the channel, or if you've been around the YouTube blacksmithing community, I'm sure you've seen him. He used to be a lot more active than he is, but he was one of the first really big blacksmithing channels out there. I think at the height of his popularity, he had almost 500,000 subscribers. But he's a really good friend of mine. He lives in upstate New York near a buddy of mine, and I visit him every year when I go up there. He's a really cool dude. But a while back, you know, he was looking to get his hands on a new anvil, and I had a 200-pound hay button that double horn actually replaced. That was just sitting there. I didn't really need it anymore. You know, I didn't want to sell it because I love the anvil. But he was looking for a new anvil. He offered to trade me this for it, and you know, I think it was a good deal. But anyway, it came from someone that is a good friend and someone I consider a mentor. Starting out, I learned an immeasurable amount watching his videos. So this is one of my possessions that I would be the most hurt if I were to lose. Second tool I've picked to talk about, these are in no particular order. These are just the 5 that came to mind. But it's my anvil. This is valuable to me for a lot of reasons, some of them obvious. You know, it's the tool I use to make my living. A blacksmith needs an anvil. So, you know, I got a really, really good deal on this. It's 260 pounds. I paid $750. So just a hair under $3 a pound. And it was brand new. Still had the factory clear coat and paint on it and everything. The gentleman I bought it from, the company that makes these anvils, they outsourced their casting to the Czech Republic, and the gentleman had bought it over there directly from the factory. And it had something to do with the currency exchange rate at the time. You know, maybe their economy was in the toilet or something like that. But he got it for a really good deal, and he sold it to me for a really good deal because he said he just didn't have space for it anymore. But it's an excellent anvil. Love it. Can't recommend it highly enough. A lot of people ask me about anvils, you know, where to buy them, how to find them. I've had the best luck with Craigslist and Facebook Marketplace. Set your radius to 100 miles, and you need to check it constantly. Like in between every heat, you should look. I responded to the ad for this anvil less than a minute after it was posted, and I went up there and got it that same day. It was about 100 miles, about a 3.5-hour drive, and it was time and money well spent. So, you know, if you want to find an anvil, if you're dead set on getting a good deal, they are out there. They come and go really, really quick, and you do got to get a little bit lucky. And that's part of the fun in trying to find one. So I got a really great deal. It's an awesome anvil, you know, great rebound all the way up and down. After about 3 years of really heavy use, you know, it's still in pristine condition. So I got nothing bad to say about it. Love this thing. So a little more info on the anvil. It's made by a company called Old World Anvils. I'll leave a link to their website in the description box below. They actually have a lot of other really cool stuff too. But like I said, I believe they're a US manufacturer and they outsource the casting to Europe. It's cast 4140 or 8640, one of those two. I don't remember off the top of my head. But excellent anvil. Another thing that's really cool about how I got this is it came at just the right time. I had just done a craft show and I had a little bit of money to spend. If you're just starting out, craft shows are a great way to get your hands on a good chunk of money to finance a shop upgrade at once. You know, that's, you know, 3 years later, I still smile every time I look at this thing. Third tool I've picked to talk about, again in no particular order, is this here post drill press. This is made by Champion Blower and Forge Company. It's a Model 91. It dates to sometime between 1892 and 1896. That was the years it showed up in their catalogs. But it's great. Another reason this is valuable to me is because these are uncommon. You don't see them very often, and you very, very rarely see them complete. You'll see them advertised as complete a lot because people don't actually know what parts they're supposed to have because they're uncommon. But I've seen them missing the flywheel, missing this whole advanced mechanism, missing the table, and people will say it's complete and it works good just because the handle spins. But I found this at a flea market over in Raleigh, North Carolina. I was checking it out. Wasn't really going to buy it because there wasn't, you know, I didn't really need it. But some Yahoo was like, I can make a pretty cool lamp out of that thing. And I was like, yeah, I'll take it. But it's in great condition, works great. You know, I had a really good time taking it apart and oiling all the parts and everything. This one here actually has an adjustable Jacobs chuck, you know, which is really handy. The older models didn't have that. I think it was like an aftermarket thing people could choose to put in. So that's really nice to have. And this thing is actually really useful. Like if you have to drill really big holes in really thick stock and you need a workout, this will never burn up a drill bit. So it's you know, it's pretty great. You know, I'm super lucky to have it. This is a piece of history, 120 some years old. Still in the shop, still getting work done. Fourth tool I've picked to talk about is my forging press. This is valuable to me for a lot of reasons. First of all, at this point, I have to have this to make a living. I think we're over 200 hammers now, and there's no way in the world I would be able to produce on that scale in the turnaround times that I do without this thing. The quick change die system is really nice. It's got plenty of power. And also another reason it's valuable to me is because getting this thing was such an uphill climb. I saved pretty aggressively for 7 or 8 months to get this. Like, you know, every bit of money that came in, if I didn't need it to eat or to keep the business running, it went into the press fund. So, you know, I scrimped and saved to get this thing, and it's been really, really awesome to have. Super, super thankful. But other than that, there's really not a whole lot to say. It's a great press, great machine. This is actually the same one they use on Forged in Fire, but love it. Last tool I've picked to talk about, and the one that actually has the most sentimental value to me of all the tools I've talked about so far, is this old 4 horsepower scale angle grinder. This thing's older than me. I don't even think they make this grinder anymore. You know, the cord, it's more electrical tape than cord at this point. I should probably replace this. The nut, the capture nut, has long since gone missing, so I keep a wire brush on it. I use it for wire brushing my hammerheads. It's great. It's got a lot of torque, a lot of power. You can really, really lay into this thing without slowing it down. But the reason it's so valuable to me and why I'm going to do everything I can to keep it running for as long as I can is this was given to me by my dad when I first struck out on my own. You know, if you grew up with a parent in the trades, you grew up using their professional grade tools and their well-equipped shop and this, that, and the other, and then when you strike out on your own, you're back to square one. So he gave me this when I first moved into the shop and there was nothing in here. And I still use it all the time, so that's it holds a lot of fond memories of all the projects me and him have done together, building these tables, building the shelves. You know, pretty much this thing has been here for everything that's happened in the shop, and it's still getting work done. So this is probably the tool that I own that is the most sentimentally valuable to me. So there's that. Back at 10,000 subscribers, I mentioned there was going to be a giveaway. That giveaway is still going to happen. My plan originally was to, back when I was still messing with the crucible steel, that project is still, you know, it's still at the front of the shelf, but it's going to require a significant amount of research and development before I can continue to do that. And I need time, which is something I don't have a lot of right now. Like, I'm booked solid for about the next 3 weeks. So that's still going to happen. I even bought a really nice piece of bog oak to use for the handle, and then the project didn't pan out. But that is going to happen. The first successful crucible steel blade that comes out of here is going to be given away to a subscriber. I've already got a picture in my head of how I want it to look. It's going to be pretty sweet. So, you know, by no means am I trying to pretend that didn't happen. I haven't forgotten. So just bear with me. And of course, I just want to end the video by saying thanks to all of you who like, comment, subscribe, keep the channel active. You guys are what spur me to keep making these videos. You guys who order items off of the Etsy that allow me to make a living, huge thanks to you guys. You guys are awesome. Patrons of the channel, especially a big shout out to you. I don't know why I thought when the channel got monetized, my life was going to somehow get easier. If you have less than 500,000 subs, you're making basically nothing. So, you know, that's pretty awesome. Also, my buddy Dan Bailey, who helps me out with the videography work, huge shout out to him. He's a great dude. Also a blacksmith. I'll leave a link to his Etsy shop if you want to help support him in the description box below. You know, I'm probably the most technology illiterate millennial out here. I'm 28 years old and I don't know anything. Like, funny story, when I got the shirts made, the gentleman who made the logo, I didn't design the logo, a random graphic designer, I wish I remembered his name because he did a great job, but he approached me offering to trade some logo work for one of my axes, and after Googling how much it costs to have a logo made, that was a pretty good deal. So there's no way in the world that I'd be able to make the intro and outro without his help. It's all I can do to edit and upload these videos. So Dan, I know you're watching. Big shout out to you, buddy. And that's all I got for you. I don't know how far this channel is going to go, and I'm just, as long as you guys keep watching, I'm going to keep making videos. So let's see how far we can go. Like, share, subscribe, all that jazz. Always more cool stuff coming. There's several cool projects in the works. Like I said, time is just not my friend right now. If you want to stay the most up to date with what's going on in the shop, Instagram is the best place. I try to post to the story every day. Links to all the social media and all that jazz down in the description box below. And again, thank you. And y'all take care.